Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It is me, the Mysterious Cameraman, and today we are back with our second criminal law episode talking about Arrow. So I teased this in my last video. My last video I made was 30 minutes, and I was talking about if Arrow is a villain in season 1 based on using different terms of murder, causation, all that fun stuff, to determine if he's really like a hero or a villain, or if he's like, I already said at the start, I'm going to rephrase that. He was guilty. I said that from the start. He was a bad person. It was more if I claimed him to be a hero or a villain. And I said if that video did well, I was going to make like a sequel to it, talking about if Malcolm Merlyn is really guilty of all the deaths, if Moira Queen got the right verdict in her trial in, I think, episode 7 of Arrow Season 2, and pretty much anything revolving around the Undertaking. And I said if that video does well, I'll do that video. That video got like 600 views. So I'm back making this video. So thank you for helping that video do well. I don't know if this video is going to do very well, but I'm going to try it. And if it does, that's great. If not, I'll just make another one of these videos for a more interesting topic. But I think what's very interesting about this is the fact that he is a villain. At the end of the day, Malcolm Merlyn is a really crappy person for what he does in Arrow Season 1. And let's just first talk about Malcolm Merlyn. What happened in the Undertaking? He created 2 earthquake devices to make an earthquake in the glades, which led to the deaths of people. So we already have first here a causation question. And there's a few different types of causation. I guess we can just go over what causation is again. Causation, I think, is pretty simple. It's like if you did something that leads to something else, the but for test, almost like if you set off a firework in the middle of like a choreography for something, and the and he gets distracted and the choreography goes wrong, is that like causation or something? So that's like kind of what causation is a little bit. It's very simple. Like, ask the question, could the harm resulting from an action reasonably have been predicted? So that is something that we can very easily talk about from the Undertaking. At the end of the day, the Undertaking, Malcolm Merlyn committed a ton of second-degree murder. Because first-degree murder, which we're going to quickly go through, is when you commit murder with premeditated intent, which definition should be on the screen. What it very simply means is the fact that you premeditated it, you thought about it, and you still made the decision to go through with the death of another person. So it's like you thought about it, or you, like, for example, the one we used a lot in the last episode was him always aiming the bow. Every time Oliver Queen aims the bow at someone, that is enough premeditation to be first-degree murder, which is why a lot of what he commits is first-degree murder. But now let's talk about Malcolm Merlyn, who killed 503 people. We saw Arrow only killed, I think, 55 is what we decided on last time. This time, he killed 503 of second-degree murder or less. Why are none of them first-degree murder? Because the definition of second-degree murder is with the intent to cause death of another person, which is true, but without premeditation. So this is also felony murder, but there's no felony murder in this until we get up to Moira Queen, which we'll get to in a few minutes. But Malcolm commits a ton of second-degree murder and also some manslaughter. I wouldn't even consider it much manslaughter because manslaughter is very simply with criminal negligence or recklessness. I don't think this is really either. I think most of what he did is second degree. The reason why I can't say it's first degree is because it's going through causation. He did something which reasonably led to this. Like, he reasonably set off the earthquake, which led to the deaths of most of the people. But because he didn't specifically try to target a person, it did not lead to first-degree murder, it's second-degree murder. But is it second-degree murder for all of them? So then you have to ask the question, for example, someone like Tommy Merlyn. He was out of the glades, but then went into the glades to help Laurel, and then a building collapsed, which what led to his death. Could he have predicted that that would have happened to Tommy? And things like that could have happened to 100 people. For example, there was like a fight going on in the glades that I'm blanking on his name, but like Arsenal, who that's his like future name, Roy Harper, tries to stop. Could the panic of the earthquake have reasonably led to these criminals trying to attack civilians? And that's very simply what causation is. So now you have to just start thinking about that point. Could those actions of Malcolm led to all 503 deaths? And in my opinion, they really don't. Malcolm Merlyn did a terrible thing and committed a ton of second degree murder, but his 503 deaths are not all his reasonably caused. Yes, he set off the earthquake, which you could say reasonably led to every single action, but it also, in theory, if he didn't ever set off the earthquake and Moira lied about it, and then it led to the deaths due to panic, that isn't on Malcolm or Moira. That is on, yes, it could have, someone could have reasonably predicted something going wrong, but not specifically that scenario. So Malcolm can't be convicted of second degree murder for every single death. He's convicted. He has all 503 deaths on his conscience, but they're not all second degree murder. Some of it is going to be manslaughter of the first or second degree, because some of it isn't directly from the earthquake. Some of it could be other actions that lead to it. For example, it could be someone speeding out of the glades that leads to a car crash. That is not second degree murder. That's probably going to be manslaughter. I think you could make a case for a second degree murder if you were being very aggressive in a trial like that. But at the end of the day, he never commits a single account of first degree murder in The Undertaking. He commits first degree murder when he kills Adam Hunt and a few of those other people throughout the season, but he does not commit any other accounts of first degree murder in the final episode. So I think that's no, he does actually. He kills the few security guards. But in once the Undertaking occurs, he commits no set first degree murder, which is what we're mainly focusing on here. So we know that Malcolm's a villain. We've pretty much decided that. I don't think that's such like a challenging topic or a conclusion to draw. But now let's talk about a different conclusion one can have. Let's talk about Moira, because I think this is a huge topic. Is Moira guilty of these crimes due to felony murder? Or not even just felony murder. Is Moira guilty of these crimes? Period. So we see in episode 7, which I just watched a few days ago, of season 2, about how she kind of only survived the trial because Malcolm paid off the jury. But yes, they could have just blamed Moira for what happened. But that's not legally that's not the legal outcome that should have happened. So if we were thinking a non-biased jury, should Moira be convicted, innocent or guilty? And I think another thing that just needs to be pointed out is it's all of the people who are on that jury are somehow connected to the Undertaking, probably. Like they lost someone. That means they're not allowed to be on that jury. Because someone has to be on the jury who has no connection whatsoever to the case. Which means they probably should have brought people in from another city to be on this jury. So that's just like another thing that I just find funny. But really, she's innocent either way because they had an invalid jury. But now let's talk about felony murder. This is something we never talked about in the last video, so this is something I really want to discuss here. So, what is felony murder? So, very simply, felony murder is when people who are guilty of lesser crimes but are present at the time of a murder are still charged with the same as first degree murder. So, this is like a very, this has been changed a lot. This law has been changed a lot. And a lot of states have removed it in the United States since 1957. But it's a very weird idea. But we're going to be pretending felony murder is something that is used in Star City. And the reason why felony murder is so weird is because at first it was, let's say 2 people are robbing a jewelry store. That's a crime. But let's say person X and Y, Let's say person X is just thinking they're robbing the store and doesn't know person Y has a gun. And then a security guard comes in and person Y murders the security guard. Then they're both guilty of first degree murder because X, even though he didn't commit the murder, is still committing a crime while that murder is taking place. So this idea of felony murder is really to encourage deterrence, which is the idea of I can even load up the real definition of deterrence. I can give 1,000 definitions. You probably even know what it is. It's like the attempt to stop future criminal behavior. Very simply, all it is, it's like, do you support, not even do you support it, if you commit a crime, it's like trying to make people not want to do that crime. I don't really know if It's very simple. All it is like, if someone commits a crime, they go to jail for the rest of their life. Do you really want to do that? That's all deterrence is. Very simple. But now let's talk about felony murder. If someone, it's been changed a lot, because at first it was any crime. Now, for most states, and we're going to be using this specific thing, it has to be an inherently dangerous crime, which is tied to the murders. So let's say let's think of like a stupid crime. Let's say jaywalking. Even though that's like changed, but I'm not going to go deep into that because I don't even know if that's such a good example. But let's say someone jaywalks at the same with someone, and then that person commits a murder. They're both guilty of murder. So now let's talk about Moira. They changed that to, I forgot to say this part. They changed it to it having to be inherently dangerous. So jaywalking is not inherently dangerous, so that wouldn't be placed there. Is robbing a jewelry store inherently dangerous? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Is stealing a car inherently dangerous? So Moira, yes, she did commit crimes. She did, I think she money laundered at some point. She extorted a ton of people. She threatened people. Um, she helped and for example, she was present at the death of, this is the biggest one. She's present at the death of Frank. She cannot be guilty of the undertaking. Let's just say that here. Because she is detained by the police. And she is in the police station when the undertaking takes place. So I don't think she's in the. I don't remember if she's in the police station or if she's just in police custody. But she cannot be guilty of felony murder because she's not present at the time of the crime. She would have to be with Malcolm when that occurs for that to be felony murder. She could be an accomplice to murder, but she can't be charged with felony murder because she's not there at the present. But with Frank, she didn't commit any crimes there either. It has to be in a specific time span. So technically, Moira is never guilty of felony murder. But is she guilty of being an accomplice, even though she's under duress? And I think her name's Jane or Janet or something. Whoever the lawyer is for Moira is pretty much exactly right. It is pretty much impossible for Moira to lose that case because she's in such a good position because she was extorted, and she was not even extorted. She was like forced. She was under duress for her children. You could use a lot of cases where it is simply you can't murder someone else for your own life. Like you can't commit murder to save your own life. However, you also, but that's not the same thing as saying, I'm going to help you because if not, you're going to murder my children. That is very different. Is she still committing an illegal crime? Yes. And Moira should be charged for being an accomplice to this murder. She should be. But she isn't, because she never, one, commits murder, and B, is under duress, she should not be going to prison for life, and she should never even have been thought about getting the death sentence. I literally like started laughing when oh my god, the prosecution goes, I'm gonna give you the death sentence, Moira, because that isn't possible. It is, yes, they can be mad, and yes, they might want a scapegoat. But if we're thinking with legality here, that is a really stupid reason to throw Moira away. Yes, they might want a scapegoat. They might want to blame someone for what happened. But then that isn't, we're thinking with legal terms here. And if we're thinking about this, they have an invalid jury. Already Moira set free. That's already trial's over before it even began. If we can make an argument, Moira at most goes to prison for 10 years. Because even under duress of murder, she would either, I would say, even going to jail for 10 years is a lot for that. Yes, she abided in 503, at most, second-degree murder charges. At most, 503 second-degree murder charges. But she was under duress, which lowers her sentence. And plus, we don't know, at this point in the trial, all we know she did help with some money things and things like that. And she helped make the device, sure. But that's it. Like, she didn't do anything specifically. She didn't plant the weapon. She didn't, like, do so much to the point where it would be more than 10 years. Because she was under duress, because she was kind of forced into it, Moira's innocent. Like, in my opinion, she would still go to prison for some time because she still was an accomplice in up to 503 second-degree murders. So, in my opinion, it would either be up to 10 years in prison or some sort of house arrest type thing that Oliver gets. I think it could be either because I don't know how. It always depends on what the rules the state has. Obviously, we don't know what rules and laws Starling City has specifically, but we know that that's something that could be argued. But now the final thing I want to talk about in this video is Malcolm Merlyn or Oliver Queen worse? Already in season 2, I'm probably gonna make a season 2 part 2 to the first part of Arrow. But is Oliver, like Oliver? We already said. In my opinion, I said I think he could be deemed a hero or a villain based on your views. I think I said that he could be a hero because he's doing this trying to save people, but he's a villain because he does it through committing murder. In the second season, I said this last time, I'm going to say it again. He is a hero. He does not commit murder except for that one time against the Count, which is, I'm only up to episode 10 right now, so I don't know what happens after that. I just don't remember. But yes, he does commit murder there. But besides from that, it's not that much to the point where I'd still consider him a hero in season 2. But here now I'm asking, is Malcolm Merlyn or Arrow the villain of season 1? Because Arrow commits 55 55-ish first degree murders, but Malcolm commits 503-ish second degree murders. So it's a very different type of thing. Is Oliver defeating, he doesn't kill Malcolm either. Is Oliver defeating Malcolm worthy of, is that affecting the case? Is Oliver trying to, even though Oliver's trying to save people, he's still committing a ton of murder. So is that helping his case? Is that hurting his case? And because Malcolm's not trying to help anyone, does that help or hurt his case? Once again, I feel like this is a specific to you question of morality. Do you believe Oliver is good or bad for doing that? And then do you believe Malcolm Merlyn, 503 counts of second degree murder, is that worse or better than 55 counts of first degree murder and intentions? I think that's all things you could argue. Obviously, you never actually have to argue who's a worse person because in a courtroom, you just both be sentenced to life in prison. That's pretty much what would happen because second degree murder wouldn't get you life in prison, but 503 counts of it will. So both of them are going to prison for life. Both of them deserve that. But I think the question we need to ask is one person's actions worse than the others? Obviously, this isn't like such a serious discussion, but that's really what this video is about. Is Malcolm Merlyn's actions worse than Oliver Queen's actions? I think that's such a very interesting question. I'm going to give you my answer, and then I'm going to wrap this video up. In my opinion, I think it really could go either way. Because Oliver also saves people, that would help his case against Malcolm. Malcolm does no good, and though he has intentions for it, he does. He has, like, not intentions, he has, like, a motive. That motive will not save him enough, and because it's the death of innocents, that 503 counts of second degree murder will trump 55 accounts of first degree murder of illegal people. So even if, yes, Oliver's committing crimes, so he is murdering a ton of people, but if, for example, when he broke into the house of the rich guy and one of the guards shot and killed him, all of them are guilty now for first degree murder. So it's always gray in a situation when you're talking about a vigilante superhero show and then you're talking about the legality of it. But that's going to be what I think. But once again, it's very subjective. Unlike math, criminal law is, as long as you argue your point well and it has evidence, you're going to get it right. You might not be better than the other person, but you as long as you have evidence to support your point, you can have a valid answer. So I think that's where I'm going to end this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this type of content, please comment below what type of other types of videos you want to see separate from this criminal law type of video, and if you want to see more of these, what the next topic will be. Either way, I'm going to make more of these because the first one did well. If they keep doing poorly after this, then I'll stop. But I want to see how a few go. So I really love hearing your feedback, so comment that below. And besides that, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.